Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today I am sitting down with a group of people I've been wanting to speak to for a long time, and that refers to the Vigor Stable Coin, which is kind of the Vigor lending DAC. I'm on with a few of the DAC members today, so really happy to be here. Andrew Bryan was kind of one of the founding members of the DAC, and I guess, Andrew, I'd really like to hear your story, basically where you came from. And then I'd like to kind of go around the room and get just a quick introduction from everybody. And then I'm going to start asking a bunch of questions because you guys have managed to do something with the DAC model that I don't think has been executed quite properly in a really, really long time. So for me, it's quite fascinating. Andrew, can you kind of introduce yourself? How did you get yourself into this mess? What was your background? And what are you doing now? How's everything going?
Yeah, no, it's not a mess. It's just an open source software project. And actually not really a founder, just sort of like, maybe was around and put a few things together, but it's like, yeah, it's open source software, and basically people are able to come on and just, try to help us build this stablecoin system. So for me, or in the early days there, I was, basically floating around Wall Street, different jobs, like most people in corporate America. Just, it's a grind, it's trying to work through like different cultures in the corporate scene. For me, I was mostly like a financial engineer type person, working on like derivative models or like pricing and running risk and stuff like that for different portfolios of different like instruments. Pretty much across the board, from equity to fixed income and credit, mortgages and structured products and everything. So I'd seen a lot, and I'd worked at some decent firms. Like I was at Harvard Management Company for a time, and at that time they had a couple of trading floors. Actually, it's in Boston. There's the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, so Harvard has a few floors in there, and yeah, so there was a trading floor with like different trading desks, and I was, supporting the, it's like there were some credit derivative trades that were being placed, and we did some like pre-trade analytics and all that sort of stuff. But that's the typical thing, this for me in that field, just bouncing around from different firms. I was at Credit Suisse for some time too, and they had a pretty, I guess what you describe as like, I guess it could be sexy trading floor. It was pretty cool, it's interesting stuff. And, I had watched like financial stuff sort of innovate over time. And of course, as Bitcoin came out and then these smart contract platforms where you can actually, code something into it. Because, when Bitcoin first came out, I had read some things from Goldman Sachs on like researchy stuff and looked at it, but there wasn't really much you can do like with it. It wasn't a smart contract platform, so I wasn't just like, I at that time it was too late to even mine, so I wasn't even like miner or anything. So, but anyway, smart contracts seemed like a natural like thing to, for financial engineering. Like, so if you think about decentralized finance, like it's a fancy word, but it's probably just nothing more than another step in like financial innovation, the next sort of things that they're working on for innovating these like products. Because, in the 70s when like derivative models came out, it was just like this frigging heyday, and people making mad money, hear all the stories, read all the books about it. It's crazy. Like, yeah, I naturally gravitated towards this like MakerDAO thing that they were working on about, trying to come up with some kind of like stability mechanism for like a crypto. And so I sort of disappeared for a long time into that sort of idea. And it's almost like a fetish, some people have a foot fetish, whatever. It's like not feet for me. So I like derivative models and playing around with like quantitative stuff. So yeah, I just compiled everything I could, and I tried to have a community. Like, so I'm totally into open source like software. I like the idea, And with crypto, I feel like it's self-financing. So it kind of like was an interesting thing for me to like put together like all the stuff in my head. And I just like, I wanted to have like a community, like build something, like write a white paper. And so for a while I was just like trying to bounce ideas around people, you know, to try to write a white paper together. And you can imagine it's freaking, like everyone has different ideas. And it's just like, it just turned out to be
I know, man.
crazy. And so like,
yeah.
And so as the myth goes, like somebody disappeared for a few months and wrote one white paper with any ideas and all ideas, try to condense down as hard and tough as you could into small, you know, enough bite-sized pieces to consume. And and then so it was like, okay, so writing the white paper as a community is not really maybe the greatest idea, but you know, so the story goes, Chester emerged from the cave with some kind of like white paper and gathered like some programmers around one idea instead. And and you know, it's like EOSDAC, or they released stuff like right around that time. And it's just the way to manage the multi-sig. Like if you're building an open source software project, like, you know, you can imagine, you know, how can you keep track of who's contributing what? You know, if there's any, like, you know, people don't do stuff for free. Everybody's time is at a premium. You know, it's like you have other stuff to do. You have your own pet projects. Why would I want to join your pet project? You know, it's like, how can you allocate, you know, compensation or like ownership or whatever, like in the open source community? You know, I mean, open source has been around a long time, but now with crypto, it's like, and then married with like the permissionings, like multi-sig permissionings with the DAC software. Yeah, it works pretty good. You know, you can manage a community and sort of like, keep track of like contribution and like, you know, compensation and stuff like this. Yeah.
It's pretty cool because, I mean, cryptocurrency in itself kind of started off as this underground movement, and now it's just gained a ton of popularity. And you do have these communities where you're able to build these products, which is kind of what you guys have done, which is why I'm really impressed. Because I know, like, I've really had an interest in DACs since the beginning, since kind of EOS DAC came around and created this. And I know obviously there was DACs before EOS DAC, but I'm talking about specifically in the EOSIO community. I think EOS DAC kind of created the software and they kind of launched this BP that was community owned. And it was kind of an eye-opener for a lot of people. And I think that there's probably some challenges with being able to manage that. But what you guys have done so far and what you guys have already created is really, really impressive in light of some of these kind of the challenges of decentralization. I think it's really impressive. I've been watching for a while. I want to come back to you, Andrew, because I have some really good questions that I want to kind of ask you about the project and kind of where you're at and where we're going to go. But I also wanted to talk a little bit to some of the other custodians. So I was thinking maybe if you guys could even just give me like a quick introduction, who you are, where you came from, and what really drew you to the project, and then we'll just kind of move around the room. So I see somebody which would be up on my top left, but probably not everybody's top left. Or actually, IK, you look like you're ready to go too. Do you want to give us an introduction, talk about yourself, what you do?
Yeah, so hi, I'm IK. I work on the back end, and like this project, coming across this project, working with Andrew, learning from Andrew, like it's been an incredible experience. Like it's such a visionary project, and what we are attempting to do, it's like captured all of my imagination, and we've got such an amazing community. So I was a former teacher, and I used to hack away in the evenings, and like things just progressed, and I went from just like building my own games and then taking them on desktop and then taking them over to mobile. And like as for the whole crypto world, I mean, so I remember like hearing headlines of like, you know, the debt crisis that occurred in certain parts of the world, and that's when like, you know, Bitcoin kind of started to like make its presence be felt by each and all. And, you know, like fast forward a few years and like the word crypto is now kind of like, it's part of like everyday speech. And what we're doing is just, you know, making that so much more larger. And the whole project is just quite an awesome project. Yeah.
Yeah. I know some of the people, of course, some of the people in this room, and I know some of the talent that you guys have attracted. It's kind of just like, that's what I've always said. Like the cool thing about crypto is that it starts off as an idea, and that idea, it's kind of like, I always use the snowball idea. It starts off as a little snowball. It's this idea starts to roll down the hill, starts to pick up snow, but snow in terms of like human capital, and whatever it may be, and it just kind of compounds. And before you know it, these small little ideas get very big, and that's really one of the cool things that the DAC model allows. So I'm really impressed with what you guys have done so far. I'm going to move over to my top left, which would be prc.eos. Do you want to give us a quick introduction? Just say, who you are, how you kind of found the project, and basically like what your role is currently.
Hey, I am Pedro, mostly known by PRC because it's my initials. So I am a developer for, like a dinosaur. And I started in crypto for 4 or 5 years already. Man, time passes really quick. I was a creator of Sound, the first decentralized platform for music monetization.
Yeah.
I am still lead developer of that project. That project is moving to EOS
Cool.
slowly because EOS is quite evolving right now as well, with all side chains and all the involved costs and racks and all that. So
yeah.
I've been around for almost 2 years, involved in EOS ecosystem. I came from Steam and BitShares, and I contributed for some forks of BitShares and some forks of Steam. I contributed also to EOS mainnet, to Liquid Apps, to
Nice.
many other projects. And right before I joined Vigor, I constantly watch movies, watch videos on YouTube and all that.
Yeah.
I watched some of yours as well, and some of MBlue, crypto, and suddenly once I see this guy sitting in a desk in a small island with a fishing thing,
so good,
developing some strange project, and with a nice name, which was Vigor, and I just wanted to dig deeper. My background in crypto and blockchain development and all that, and smart contracts as well from Ethereum and all that. I just wanted to dig deeper. And I found Andrew, and I found all the team. And I just naturally fell in love with this project because it's so cool. It's really something never done. And the DAC is amazing. I am an investor and a curious guy of DACs since the beginning of EOS DAC. And I am a friend of Luke Stokes from Steam Times.
Yep.
So I got involved in the EOS DAC really early on. Never did any development with them because they had they had it all figured out, right? The team and all that and so on. So and I found this DAC and I decided to join to try it out at the beginning because I really find DACs interesting, and I think that Vigor did it in a different way than all the others. And here I am developing the project right now, full power, and trying to push this project to the mainnet as soon as we can. So yeah, this is interesting. I also participated in other projects like Emanate. I brought Emanate from Ethereum to EOS. Nice. But then we just found out that the team wanted to take the project in a direction that I didn't want with this sound. So we decided to move on. And they are doing a great job on EOS, and soon the sound will be here as well. And yeah, I also run a team of developers, blockchain developers, and which is called Decentralized. And I am also taking care of running my own candidacy with my data center company, which is on Rack Networks. Nice. So soon there will be another strange BP on EOS mainnet and many other side chains, looking for like 1,000 in ranking or something. But anyway, we are doing it the same.
Yeah, so that's cool.
This is the story of my life.
well, welcome, Pedro. The infamous video. That was one of the things that I really enjoyed. And Andrew, I'm definitely going to come back to you and ask you about that, because I remember seeing that video and I was just like, what is going on here? This is amazing. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool where you're sitting there and you've got the laptop, you've got like the fishing pole, and you're like, we'll get back to that because I have some questions for you there, but I'm going to run to Zishan really quickly. Do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself, how you found this project, what attracted you to it rather, and what keeps you here?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Zishan, and I actually, before joining this project or before coming into crypto, I was working with FireEye as a malware researcher in network security. For 1.5 years, I worked as a malware researcher in defensive teams, analyzing all the buggy things, all these scripts and malwares. Then I shifted towards the advanced red team. I was a part of advanced red team in the FireEye, where I worked there on some APTs, advanced persistent threats known to the world. Nice. And after that, I get interested in blockchain, and I like majorly I like the EOS because of its programming, majorly because of its programming language like C++. You have full control on the code. I like Ethereum. I worked on it too, but we do not have such control in our hands. So when it comes to the EOS C++, then we have control over everything. And coming towards the DAC, DAC is actually, I think it is the next revolutionary thing which is happening in front of us, and we need to participate, we need to learn, we need to educate people about it, about decentralized autonomous community, so that people will come to know like how you can participate, how you can work. And yeah, I like the Vigor Stablecoin project. Like if you view currently the project, like in previously few years, the projects which was backed by some fishy organizations, you can say, or we do not know, like either they actually hold that value in the bank or not. Like there is no transparency. But when it comes towards the Vigor, and then secondly, there is no one organization behind this project. It is being built on DAC, so it's a lot more transparent than all other projects. So these things actually attracted me towards Vigor, and I'm working as a security member in Vigor, checking out the security stuff and making it secure for people to invest in it.
Cool. That's awesome. It sounds like Andrew's, the DAC in itself, because it is kind of the DAC, has attracted some really, really bright people. I want to move down to another familiar name really quickly here. John Heater, who we all know, likely if you're watching this, you know him from Boyd. John, I wasn't even aware that you were involved in Vigor. I want to know what brought you into Vigor, what keeps you here, what keeps you moving, and
Sure.
what's kind of inspired you, man?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Actually, I think I'm one of the top voted custodians now somehow. So so I wasn't really expecting that. So honestly, I just joined because we're working on the Boyd DAC, turning Boyd into a DAC, and I wanted to experiment and discover kind of existing solutions and contribute where I could and start building up, a community.
Yeah. And
Vigor is an interesting project to me because I like the kind of financial modeling ideas behind it. And I think the governance is pretty innovative in terms of experimentation with DACs on the mainnet. So yeah, I joined in. I was just kind of helping build some interface things here and there and giving some advice on technical side of things. And I ended up building the client interface for interacting with the contracts on testnet and also the Vigor Earn interface, so you can learn about Vigor and earn some VIG tokens for taking a quiz and things like that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working with the team and launching this thing soon.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. And it's cool to see you involved because you obviously have had a lot of experience in EOSIO. So I'm looking around here, Andrew, and as I said, I also know some of your other custodians and some of the other people who are in the DAC, and you've got an incredible amount of community support. You've also got some really, really intelligent people from within the community, and you've attracted people who were outside of the community and brought them into the EOSIO community. So I would say overall, it's a smashing success. I want to break this down a little bit before we get too far ahead. For anybody who's not technical, it's funny because I actually had a chat with somebody the other day and I asked them the same question and they simply said that they don't. But Andrew, if you were trying to explain what this project and how it works and also maybe the necessity of this project, why do we need a stable coin? What is a stable coin? How does it work on a very basic level? How would you describe that? And anybody else, if at any point you have something to say or you want to comment, because there's so many of us here, I know it sounds like school, but just throw up your hand and then I'll make sure I give you a chance to chat. So if there's anything you want to talk about or add, then don't hesitate to jump in. Chaos is fine. We're having a good time here. Go ahead, Andrew. What do you think?
Yeah, stable coins are, about, having a token that's not as volatile as most of them are. It's the whole problem, if let's say, if Bitcoin was more stable, could it be used as a currency? Well, maybe not because it's too slow, but one of our ideas is just for example of a stable coin, if we're trying to whitelist different tokens and TransLedger has a way to have a proxy Bitcoin on EOS. Yeah. So just imagine we're whitelisting a token like Bitcoin and other proxy tokens. They have a whole list of them, like Ethereum even, could basically back our stablecoin too. So then it opens the door towards, I guess, over the long term, because we're a stablecoin, right? So it's basically, if basically it doesn't really matter how it works. I guess it's just it's backed by other volatile currencies,
Yeah.
And yeah, we were trying to think. Somebody mentioned it the other day about that. Is how can you bridge the gap between being stable to the dollar and having crypto, be stable enough to be used, for purchasing goods and services, right?
Yeah, man.
And it's right now, the way our stablecoin is going to work is it's going to have, backing by these other volatile currencies. And as long as you have excess amount of them, the stablecoin represents, at least $1 worth. So each stablecoin is, has at least $1 worth of backing. And the trick to not trick to it, but the math behind ours is that it provides quite a lot more confidence that there is enough backing.
Yeah. So
that it has this dollar value. And so to bridge that gap, if you can imagine over maybe a long period of time, yeah, if even the fiat currencies that we would be stable to become increasingly volatile to the point where maybe they're similar to the volatility of crypto, you could have your stability not just be tied to the dollar, it could be tied to, a mix half dollar, half Bitcoin. And
yeah,
Yeah, and the idea, yeah, it would be gradual though. We don't think it's a binary type of thing. Like one day it's just going to be crashing scenario of the dollar or something, maybe, but it's maybe more subtle and like just it's not even like to the human eye you can't really see it unless you put it in fast forward. And so like if let's say over time, if your currencies become more volatile, like a crypto-backed stablecoin could be what's called like what I would call the missing link, because you can't necessarily spend something like Bitcoin when that's probably the thing that's like has the most potential for for that sort of thing. It's just that it's too slow and it's not proper. So what we think is like, well, I think, and we're not. This would be one of our next like researchy ideas. Is we're calling it like the risk parity coin.
Yes.
Its weights would like gravitate towards the less risky thing in the portfolio of things that you're stable to. But what I'm trying to say is like, so for like, Bitcoin, for the key thing to this thing to work would be like, if you can get like Bitcoin, what you need to have is a price feed, right? And you need to have measurements of like Bitcoin being used as a purchase of goods and services. And so, there's some challenges with it, but like, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know what I'm trying to say now. I lost my thought, but that's
you explained what it was. It's basically, it's a hedge against multiple currencies. And I actually want to ask a question. Anybody here is welcome to answer or jump in, because I'm kind of like opinionated on this. I don't know if you guys watch Mike Maloney, but I'm a huge fan. And I've been watching a lot of things that have been happening to the economy and the US dollar, because the truth of the matter is that the US economy is very important to the rest of the world. Because obviously there's a lot of trade, and the U.S. dollar is widely used as kind of an international currency. And I've been watching what's been happening in the last year, and I've been kind of nervous about the amount of money that the U.S. government has A, been printing, B, injecting in what is permanent but not actual quantitative easing. So I think that having a hedge, exactly as you spoke about, right? You're using cryptocurrencies to be able to provide a hedge balance on this. I think that it's really, really important. I personally do believe that we are in, I don't want to give a timeline, but I'm thinking probably in the next 2 years, we're going to have some serious economic issues in the US with the US dollar based on the amount of money that they have been printing, that they have been injecting. And I think that projects like yours that are using a baskets of cryptocurrency are going to be really, really relevant. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the US economy is perhaps in a place where it's time to kind of use some of these other financial tools to be able to create hedges? Or what do you think overall, Andrew? Or anybody else for that matter? Feel free to jump in, guys. Go ahead, IK.
So I can't speak of the US economy, but I can refer you to not so long ago, there was a crisis I think it was in Greece in 2015, and people switched over to using crypto. They switched over to using like Bitcoin, and that showed just like the role that these kind of instruments will play. Like, should there be a crisis, which kind of like emphasizes the importance of like what we're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think that we do need a hedge. I think like a lot of people in the general public still think that the US dollar is backed by gold. And I'm Canadian myself, so I'm not, it's not that I'm, and of course Canada is like the US's brother. Like, we do a lot of things together. Our economies are very tightly tied. But I'm worried. I'm personally worried about the future, the way that things have been happening, the amount of money that they've been injecting into the economy, essentially printing. The U.S. economy, the U.S. dollar is essentially backed by the military, and they're printing a lot of dollars and they're doing a lot of really crazy things. It makes me nervous, and it makes me happy to know that you guys are kind of creating alternative solutions to be able to hedge against that. Personally, the one thing that I'm really interested in is the way that you guys have managed to build this on a DAC. I'm curious if any of you guys want to talk about both some of the challenges of building a project using a DAC and some of the advantages as you guys see it.
Well, Andrew probably can answer that with more experience. I am kind of new in the project, but from what I've seen, it's a very democratic way of doing things.
Yeah.
I've been in favor and against many things, as all of us, and it actually works, which is surprising for me, because being an anarchist and being always trying to avoid pressure and control and all that, having this experience in a DAC that actually works, and that actually everybody can be in favor or against stuff and have actual conversations and discussions and reach to a decision in the end.
Yeah.
It's really, really amazing. And it's the first time that I am experienced this in a professional level, which is even more of a challenge, right? Yeah. So yeah, I'm really, really surprised with the way things work in Vigor. And I really think that DACs are the future.
Absolutely. I think DACs are incredible. Andrew, I'm going to give you an opportunity, and then I'm going to move it down to you, LK, there right after. Andrew, do you want to talk about kind of maybe some of the challenges that you've had, some of the wins that you've had, and kind of how you've basically moved this thing along using the DAC model?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So our project didn't start with like initial capital, so it's kind of like we have nothing to lose, which is good, but it's also kind of weird, because then like in the initial stages, we're giving out a token that's worth nothing to people. And it's just a little bit like, you get really, I don't know, try to think of it, like let's say you want somebody to work on your project. You have this cool project you want, if you're not really paying like much, or if it's like, maybe what would be like, that you would basically get these tokens that might be worth something someday or whatever, not an investment, but, if you get like a person who's like a developer that's kind of like paycheck to paycheck and they're hungry, like they can't really do that, there's no money in it and they're busy. And so then it's like the other type of person who maybe, self-financed, and if that type of person, they have their own pet projects, they're successful for a reason, probably that they have a whole bunch of things going on.
Yeah. And
so that's kind of like, not the right person either. So we've been just keeping it to like, our statement is just like, we want people to have like a feeling of endowment, like upstarters, people who feel like they can come and take this project and make it happen, so it's like built by the DAC, and that you're a part of it, and that you have like at least a measure of like how much of a part of it you are, based on what you're doing. And so, but you have to get like, it just seems like very specific enthusiasts that happen to like the topic, that are sort of like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you get a lot of people criticizing, the thing where it's like, you ought to have worker proposals and ought to be very specific what they're doing and what they're getting paid for. And, but we've always come back like around, we argue a lot on the telegrams, and it's just like, maybe, with work, I've always been against worker proposals. For me, it seems like you need to have somebody overseeing it, so it becomes master slave, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's like someone has to they have to judge whether or not you did what you did, and it's like, it means you have to write everything down and stuff. It's just not like what we're about. It's just, that's why I come back to the idea of upstarters. It's like innovators, upstarters that could just go in there and make it happen, kind of thing. So that's what we're attracting, and that's, I think all the people that are voted up into the top spots are like this too. They're there because they've just started doing stuff, that have made a difference.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that simple, you know. So.
It's cool that you managed to build a mechanism that people can kind of do that, because people come. I mean, I remember when I came into the community, I was kind of excited, and for me, it was a rabbit hole. Prior to that, I'd been very much about like, you know, if I invest in this, how much can I make in that, and whatever else. And when I really started, I got dragged into the EOS community as kind of definitely a speculator. I was very much about like wind, moon, whatever else. But as I started to become involved in projects and I went down like various rabbit holes, I had an opportunity to work in projects too. And it's the self-starters who come in and you know, get to play around and get that opportunity to build something, who will absolutely shock you. But I will say too, like I've looked at your roster and the amount of people, even the people that we have in front of us right here, and you've attracted some pretty serious people to this project. So it's pretty cool. I want to move down to LK. You had a comment there, my friend. Do you want to go ahead?
I'll just unmute myself. Yeah, so like the DAC is it's a paradigm shift in the way that organizations are run. And it's actually going to be really interesting to see just how much this kind of like structure will be adopted, like whether this will become like prevalent. I mean, of like the custodians and the candidates, like everyone's judged on their merit, everyone's judged on their enthusiasm, how much they want to contribute. That makes like a DAC like really healthy and like vibrant. And there are things that, you know, could be improved. So for instance, like qualitative, a measure of like the quality of what you contribute. These things can be worked out like going forward. But I mean, we're at the start of like a great experiment on two fronts. So like we're building the contract, and like the DACs, like that's like slowly evolving. I think that the next decade is going to be really interesting.
Yeah,
technologies.
I think so too. And like kind of to Andrew's point, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? How like the way that you guys have managed to do this in a decentralized manner, DACs are still relatively new. Obviously, they've been around before EOSIO, but it's interesting to watch the evolution. And I've been like watching DACs honestly kind of from the sideline because I've been pretty busy myself in certain projects or whatever else. But I think that you guys are in the middle of an experiment, and I see what you guys are doing, and I see you guys winning, and that's really what attracts me to the Vigor project. I see you guys doing this in a decentralized manner, and I see that you guys are actually pulling it off, and that's kind of why I was attracted to the project in the first place. Like, it's working. You guys are doing it. I think, like, for me, just as a random comment, I think, like, if there was some way to create, like, additional tools, kind of like if you could take Asana and create, like, a decentralized Asana, I think it's just a matter of kind of like figuring things out as you go along and creating tools that have kind of decentralized power structures to be able to recruit people and get them in. How important is decentralization to you, Andrew, coming from kind of that, like your background's like very corporate, very finance oriented, like what flipped the switch with you when you started to realize like how important decentralization was? Was there like some sort of moment, or was there some sort of thing that happened at work? Like when did you really kind of get hooked into all this and realize what people were building?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I've said it too many times. I don't want to repeat everything I always say. That's sort of like our rhetoric sort of stuff.
It's fine.
We come back to the same rhetoric all the time, but the elements that are missing in traditional finance are the trust, you know, and the transparency problems.
Yeah.
You know, you have to trust the central counterparty, and the transparency thing is abused a lot. And you know, they try to make amends and solve for those issues by just like, you know, hardcore regulation or like, you know, flat compliance. You know, you all comply to this number, bam, you know, or
yeah.
You know, you can't, you know, not everything fits in one box, you know, but you can't have people trying to explain why their compliance should be a different number, because then it becomes that repeat, you know, the 2007. But I was going to say, I mean, we're not like building a video game here. We're building, you know, a financial, like a decentralized, I guess, financial protocol is what we're supposed to call it. You know, and decentralization is really important, you know, but it's like, you know, so we're in the stages right now of trying to form the legal entities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, we've already like gone through different ideas, you know, like, I don't know, we rejected an idea that looked too centralized, you know, if you have like a person in any entity with too much power. So we have this like idea of we're almost ready to purchase this entity that's like it's like a worker co-op almost, where it's going to be like you know, kind of like a mirror, like a reflection, a legal personality for what the DAC is.
Yeah.
But the directors would actually have to be, you know, KYC'd and, you know, on some kind of like paperwork that you're a director of this entity and it's going to be in Singapore.
Yeah.
You know, it's important, but like we're going to have to limit the powers of that. Like, so DAC custodians are different, right? If you're a custodian in a DAC, you might be a software developer, right? You may not care about, you know, management of something or anything, or like managing, you know, relationships with like regulators, for example. If you're gonna, you know, pursue a license, or they're gonna pursue you, either way, you're gonna have a relationship with them. And like we're trying to come with terms like how can a decentralized community build, you know, and deploy this thing, but also deal with a centralized, you know, world. And so the entity itself, you know, for example, the DAC would basically elect like directors, right, to be into this entity, and then the DAC itself is writing the rules as to what powers these directors would have. But you know, to take on a directorship, it means a lot of risk, I think. So it's like, who's going to want to do that? And it's like, well, it comes back to exactly the people who are interested in doing that. You know, not developers, for example. You can't force all 21 of the top 21. Just say you're going to be a director. They may not be suited for that or be interested in that. Yeah. So I think like we're going to have some kind of like, you know, compensation model, I guess, for the directors that want to volunteer for that position. You know, and it has to be the same thing, because the entity is going to hold like IP for this thing. We had some patent applications that we're waiting on. Nice. And like that entity would hold that, and then, for example, this worker co-op would own another corporation below it that would basically be the one to, you know, get licensing with different jurisdictions that we're trying to target. Because obviously we can't just open it up to the world at this point, because you see, you know, really serious like words coming out of, you know, the different bills that are out there. They're calling out stablecoins by name. It's, you know, it's like, you know, we're not out to like to go dark or beat the system or anything. We're gonna try to comply however we can, and you know, if we're in Singapore and we have an entity there and we see a jurisdiction that we're trying to pursue, then we deal with the regulator and try to get the proper license. Yeah, and it's going to be costly, so we're going to have to determine where it is we want to be able to offer, like, you know, full-on access to this thing. And there's different, you know, there's different opinions on it. It's like, yeah, yeah, you can get lost in the weeds talking about it, but it's like, it's about decentralization, though, really. Like, you know what I mean? The DAC is trying to build this tool, this protocol, have it deployed to the mainnet. But, you know, like, somebody's got to own the keys to the contract and all that. So it's like, we're going to have the users of the system, like, take on the electoral vote. So if they're measured as a user, then they would actually elect the custodian who would actually hold the keys. And so, like, yeah, various custodians would be incentivized, I guess, to be in elections.
Well, yeah, what I'm hearing you kind of talk about is that the whole idea of decentralization, because like typically speaking in history, it's been all about, you know, different kind of mechanisms to be able to manipulate and control people. Like I won't get into what those mechanisms are because some of those are probably going to be a little bit argumentative, but whatever. And what you guys are kind of doing is you guys are like bringing in this, like decentralization it's a beautiful idea. It's a, you know, a way for everybody to own a piece of a company or be involved in a movement. And it's just the world right now is not quite compatible with this idea of decentralization, but there's a big push for it. And it's just a matter of like, how are we going to fit these pieces together to make, you know, to kind of create this world and introduce this as an idea. Do you think that the world will? Do you think that like DACs, there will kind of have like this legal entity? Because I know right now technically you can't, of course, incorporate a DAC. You've got to find, as you're talking about, various ways to do it. You think that'll change in the future? You think that we'll see kind of this model be more widely used, more accepted, and maybe even see some ways to be able to essentially kind of legitimize the DAC model?
If no one else has a comment, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they do. It's like, you know, if let's say we're building video games, I think it would be a lot more clear what our future is, you know, because there's less legal regulation requirements, and so like, or risk, if you want to call it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if our model is, so if we rewind the clock and just like the model was, the way it turned out was, yeah, we just, we created a multi-sig election like software from EOSDAC, and it basically controlled keys to a token that we generated, right? So anyone could do that, it's easy. And then go out and just start handing out the tokens to people who want to help you build this thing. So people just start to get voted in, and you know, they all go to GitHub or whatever and start building software. You're handing out this token over time, and if the idea is good and your project starts to get some traction, secondary markets might develop. You don't know. You can't control that. Your token might start get traded somewhere, and yeah, and if there's no like regulatory hurdles like we have, it might be a lot easier going forward from that point. You know, if your token is traded, you release something onto mainnet, and you have whatever kind of revenue model. If your token is a part of it, hopefully, then it's not a security. You know?
Yeah, I know. Like I'm really comfortable with all of your struggles because, of course, like I've participated in a lot of projects that are like finance based. So like what you're trying to do is it's highly regulated right now, and it's highly regulated in a way that maybe the proportionality of the regulation is not the easiest thing to kind of create what you guys are doing. But I see the value in what you guys are doing, and I think that it's the right way to go about it. Like it could
Sorry to interrupt. You could sit there and build your project as a private team if you wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you imagine that, but it's like, you know, I think people have said that, yeah, if you have the DAC model, you're basically giving away a lot of the project along the way. It's like, yeah, you're not like owning it, but that's, I guess, part of the whole scene. You know, like, yeah, if you're a private team, like let's say you work for a year behind closed doors with your buddies and you build something. You deploy it, and it's like, no, you got no users because no one knows who you are. You know, It's like, okay, great. You know, so you own everything of nothing. You know, 100% of zero.
It's a good point. Like, and I'm not laughing at you, man. I'm just saying that the DAC model, like, I see Vigor everywhere. Like it's all over the place. And it's because of the way that you guys have built it. You got a huge community of interested people. And we're not talking about idiots here. We're talking about intelligent people. You got programmers, you got security experts. You know what I mean? You've got some pretty heavy hitters in like EOSIO media, let's call it. Like, I think that doing a project in a decentralized manner is actually, it's intelligent because it does distribute not only the rewards, but it distributes the work and everybody's incentivized. It creates an incentivization model that's kind of equalized throughout the DAC to be able to get this out there and to be able to get your name out there and kind of get people engaged. And I think that's...
Yeah, totally. And to interact with everyone else, like, you know what I mean? Back to the idea, if you're behind closed doors, you know, it's hard to keep a pulse of what's going on out there. The technology is moving so fast. There's always changes.
Yeah.
And it really helps to get feedback from different people on different projects, you know what I mean, that come together and they're all contributing and they're saying, you know, this project is starting a side chain, you know, and we maybe want to start looking at that. And that's on my mind because that's true for us right now.
Yep.
You know, it's all kind of, it's all about, I guess, like the project itself. I don't know, an open source project. Yeah. It has to have a bigger, wider contributor base, and there's a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, I think so. But kind of as you said, you're spreading out the equity of the company, but you're also spreading you're spreading out the efforts of the company too. You don't have like two guys who are plugging away in their basement. You have like, how many people are in the Vigor project right now? How many people have you guys got like working on this thing collectively?
Well, there's 150 registered. Like, there's a few hundred. Maybe I forget. There's the total number. Like, you can sign the Constitution, but that doesn't make you a member. That doesn't make you a votable candidate. So we have 150 votable candidates. That means they have like a full profile, and like we voted for them to actually be votable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's 150 of those, and I think the top 21 are there, but the next 21 after that are still having reasonable number of votes for their candidacy. So I think there's a good 42 maybe or so, and then it tapers down to like people with just like one vote. I don't think they are that engaged or whatever. So
yeah, it's still cool. Now instead of two guys sitting in their basement, you have 42 engaged people, a bunch of community support, a bunch of people kind of like singing the praise.
Yeah, and we have working groups too. Like, you're seeing a lot of developers here today, but like that's because we have temporary like leaders for the working groups.
Yeah.
We're trying to rotate them out. In fact, we just fired one of our temporary working group leaders the other day for violating one of the proposals that were passed. Anyway, what I'm saying is, like, you're seeing developers here because it's I was recently the temporary developer leader, and I'm on the call. But if like you talk to Crypto Scotty, he's like right now the temporary leader for the marketing people. There's a whole crew of those guys, and there's a front end developers. If you're looking at like the back end developers, the front end guys, I don't even think they elected a temporary team leader. They manage it themselves as far as I know. Like on Slack, they're on a separate thing. But we also have like the governance group, and so they sit there and debate. What we're saying is like how do users going to vote into the custodian positions? What are the rules in this worker co-op company? All that. And then we actually have like a legal working group too. And so then all these working groups come together like once in a while to have like a exchange of information kind of thing. So yeah, it's bigger than what you're seeing here. This is developers and it's the back end side, but yeah.
How much would you pay? How much would you spend monthly in human capital if you were trying to do this with a centralized company?
Yeah, probably a lot. But I would consider that most people aren't full time; they're part time, and many of them have many other projects they're working on.
Yeah.
One guy claimed he had 14 other projects, but I don't know how you can really have 14. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. I like what you guys are doing. What's the roadmap looking like right now, Andrew? Like, how long? Obviously everything's like subjective, and everything in crypto. My rule is like when you get a date, you multiply it by 4, and then plus or minus 3 months. But like, where are you guys at right now? Like, what are you guys thinking until you get big on mainnet and people can collateralize it with different tokens and kind of get everything going? What's kind of the goal?
I guess I have to answer that unless other people want to answer it. I don't know.
Doug's
not on. Doug would be a good guy on because he would talk about compliance and legal, because we can't launch without the legal in place. And once we do launch, so there's a couple of challenges right now. One of them is the scalability of our actual tool on EOS mainnet. There's a lot of restrictions.
Yeah.
With resources. So we're thinking maybe we deploy some kind of limited version just as like a proof of concept that actually has real tokens, but it's limited in a lot of ways. And then simultaneously start working on a sidechain, like our own sidechain. And I don't think anyone has really, done that. And Voice maybe coming up with that, and we can sort of see what they're doing and all that. But anyway, that would be what we're thinking right now. And it ties together with legal because, AML reporting requirements, would come into play, and we want to make sure that we don't have large transaction sizes anyway. So we're going to we have to get that whole legal layer in place where we're working on it. I mean, we're ready to purchase the legal entity, and then we have legal opinion that's ready to be executed. Just, it doesn't cover the US, but it covers 11 jurisdictions. So like we could potentially open the doors to a limited number of jurisdictions, for example, that are not not the United States and not Europe and not China.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have a pretty good background in understanding like how tangly that can be. And it can be tangly, but I see you guys like pushing forward and making work on that. So it's cool, man. It's awesome. I don't want to keep you guys for too long, Andrew, but like if you wanted to kind of do like an appeal to anybody who's watching, or you just wanted to say anything, and I'll go around the room, or if anybody else wants to say something, then just let me know and I'll give you something. But if you were to kind of talk to the community, or you had like kind of like just one last thing you wanted to say and reach out, or some sort of call to action, what would that be?
Well, I think Vigor Stablecoin is going to have a lot of features that the other incumbents, or the older like very simple designed stablecoins have. Ours is a bit different, quite different.
Yeah.
It's got like market discoverable rates, you know, so it's not like people are voting and saying, oh, this is going to be the rate. It's more like as people commit capital onto the system, it's going to discover the borrowing rates, you know, and you'll have insurers or another part of this where they're going to earn the rate. So it's kind of like a balance between borrower and insurer to discover what like borrow rates should be. So we think that's pretty huge and a big innovation nobody's doing. And another thing is that we're going to have ability to borrow. It's about borrowing. So like if you have cryptos, you can borrow stablecoin against it. It's like monetized. And so you still own your crypto, but now you've got some stablecoin and you can use that and return it later to retrieve your crypto. But it's like everyone knows that. But we also have this other feature where you can lock up stablecoin itself and then borrow like a risky token. And so that's like a potential that you could just go sell that on a secondary market, and that would put you in a short position. So it's, you know, and again, like you said before, it's multi-collateral, and I don't think anyone else is really doing that to the extent that we are. You know, it's like the difference between Reg T margin and portfolio margin. Like you can have a portfolio of collateral backing your tokens rather than like one token type backing your stablecoin and then another separately one token backing that stablecoin issue.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I think I just would like to say our stablecoin would be something to check out. Vigor Stablecoin, and the VIG token powers the whole system.
Absolutely. Yeah, I personally like it for that basketed effect too. I think I'm like, and I don't know, people can think I'm like a doomsday sayer, but I'm watching a lot of the crap that's going on with the economy right now, and I don't like it at all. I am scared to death for what is happening with the Federal Reserves and the U.S. economy. And I think that having a basketed stable tokens, or just basketed anything, because it really gives you a lot of kind of redundancy and just and gives you a lot more stability by having the ability to use various stable coins. And I think that that's a really smart idea. That's one of the best things you guys are doing. Does anybody else have anything that they want to say, or any last kind of calls to action before I let you guys go about your business and keep pushing Vigor on? Pedro, I see you reaching there.
I just wanted to thank you for this. You are a very interested guy of this crypto entire market and on US and all that. So thank you for that. And yeah, let's push this and let's raise awareness to Vigor and to this whole idea of having like artificial intelligence managing risk of some basket of currencies that serve collateral for a stablecoin. This seems like magic, but it's working actually, and it's on its way to reach mainnet so that everyone can try it out. So thank you for this opportunity, man.
It's my pleasure, man. I like, the truth of the matter is that I like EOS, I like EOSIO, and honestly, like I like doing these things. I like meeting people. So it's a pleasure. It really is. And I'm gonna make sure that I put everything. Like I'm gonna put all your links below. I'm gonna make sure that we'll come and check you guys out in Telegram. But LK, I'm gonna let you go because I can see your prime. The kind of last calls to action, man.
Yeah, like, so building the Vigor Stable Coin, I think that, I mean, it's very much needed. It's an incredible project. working on the EOSIO EOS blockchain, building smart contracts in C++. Like, it's very satisfying, but it's also very challenging. I'm certain that we'll get there. I feel like we've got the right community, and I'd like to say thank you for like hosting us, for doing your thing, for like, you know, helping to spread like what we're doing here. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, man. I don't have a big head about it. I'm not like some like super YouTube, whatever star. Like I think I've got like 500 subscribers, but I know I have people in the community who are interested. So I really hope that anybody who is watching this just comes and checks out Vigor, because I know the people that you guys have involved. I know the passion that's here. I love what you guys are doing. I understand why a stablecoin is so important. I know there's a lot of really interesting math and finance behind it. And I appreciate the journey. I appreciate what you guys are trying to push forward. I know that at this point, you know, it's you guys are taking a lot of your own time to be able to do it. So thanks so much for sitting down with me. I should be the one who's saying thank you for you guys honoring me with your presence, because I love doing these videos. I love EOSIO, and I think what you guys are doing is important. So thank you so much, guys. I appreciate your time. I'll make sure that I throw all the links below, and I look forward to hopefully doing this again soon, maybe when you guys hit mainnet.
Cool. Thanks, Matt.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Good luck with Vigor, and I'll be watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.